What's going on, everybody? Organic hypnosis, beyond speaking hypnotically anytime, anywhere, and easily. That's what makes this stuff so powerful. And once you really start to get this, it's going to be incredible for you and your clients, really for you and your relationships and how you connect with people in general. Because we're no longer limited by certain ideas we have about how this stuff has to work, right? We're getting rid of expectations. I'll talk about that more specifically later. But ultimately, within you, you have this ability, you have this super powerful unconscious mind. But to the extent we don't tap into it, we're really limiting our ability to work with folks. And so this can change the way you interact with the entire world, right? All of your conversations can shift once you start to understand these principles. Let me dive in here and highlight specifically what I mean about beyond speaking hypnotically. We've got certain things out there, right? Pacing and leading, building rapport, matching and mirroring, language patterns, things like that. Moving beyond that is where the real superpower of all this is, because to the extent you're focused on discovering those things and figuring out the right time to utilize them and how you utilize them, ultimately these set of tools can operate as a distraction from the very thing that's critical for your ability to be able to do this stuff quickly, right? And be able to do it anytime and anywhere. And that's the person in front of you. To the extent you're distracted from that person, you're missing all of that beautiful information that's being communicated to you unconsciously. Now, your ability to be able to pick up on that requires a different way to approach interactions. And those are the principles that I want to highlight here. Working principle number one here, embracing reality. This is huge, right? The first one we want to identify here is that I don't know what the real problem is. I can't even know what's inside that person's mind. If this is a client setting, ultimately the best thing they can do is provide their conscious version of the presenting problem. And we know how limited that is, right? This is the stuff we're really good at as hypnotists. We have an understanding of how that works. So if I were to begin to sort of pace and lead, match and mirror, build rapport, and ultimately try to lead you into a place where I could start to give you suggestions, well, that's fundamentally limited, right? Because I don't even know what the real problem is. That's like me giving you a pill and saying, hey, take this pill. It might solve that problem we haven't discovered yet. I mean, think about it like this. Ultimately, this capacity already exists within folks for them to be able to kind of go inward and create resources. That creative ability exists within them. They don't need us to stimulate it with imagination and all those things, right? It's already there. We just need to create a space for their mind to do it. Think about it like this. Let's use another example. So human evolution and the ability to develop mathematics, okay? If you think about evolutionary history, it's hard to point to any specific reason why the ability to be able to prove number theorems would make you a mate that's more worthy of selection from someone else, right? Now, the ability to think clearly, sure, that can show up in a bunch of different ways. But when we're looking at the hypnotic outcome, it's great to learn the principles that people talk about, but ultimately, what's quite different about my training, it's more empowering with you with the ability to explore and discover what's really going on, right? And it's a lot of stuff that's unconscious. It's very hard to articulate, right? But you don't need to be able to articulate, be able to do it effectively. Right? You see how we're kind of approaching this differently. And it's the same thing when we're moving beyond hypnotic language patterns and conversational hypnosis and things like that, as it's traditionally taught. We're not focused on any of the sort of technique because it's not necessary, right? The client's mind in front of you and being able to work with that's what's necessary. So another element of embracing reality here is realizing I can't solve that person's problem. I cannot quit smoking for that person if it's a smoking cessation session, right? It doesn't matter how bad I want to. It doesn't matter how hard I try. That person has to do it. So when we're embracing reality, part of that is ordering things correctly, putting responsibility and understanding where it needs to be, right? So that I don't violate any sort of boundary I don't have the ability to cross anyway. Another reality here is like my unconscious mind is going to be way faster at processing all of this stuff than my conscious mind. So to the extent I'm trying to bring my conscious mind into a session it's not completely useless, but it's not going to be as effective. And if you want to get fast, rapid results with clients, we have got to learn to trust our unconscious mind, right? It can figure this stuff out really quickly. And when we do that, it's almost like, I can't prove this, but I do wonder if it creates like a tacit permission for the person in front of you to do it as well. It wouldn't shock me if that were the case. I'm sure you've experienced this in other sort of aspects. Or maybe you've gotten to a really kind of creative, silly place with some friends, and then suddenly they start getting really creative and silly, and they have a blast, and you don't know what just happened, but it was really cool, but it happened organically, right? That's what we're after here. We're working with clients in an organic way. Good. Principle number 2 here: disregard expectation. I don't want you to have any expectations whatsoever for how things are going to go. Really, it's about aligning and enjoying the experience as it is, and then just exploring things from there. There is tremendous power in the ability to be able to explore things. This naturally gets the mind working, right? Because it has to. It's starting to explore things. How is someone going to overcome a problem they previously didn't have any frame of reference for even studying? They'd have no way to learn about it. And what we can do is help them do that. And it's just simply through the process of learning to explore. Now, if we bring a bunch of expectations for how things need to work, and we're trying to generate a lot of expectation in the person in front of us, sure, that could maybe create some motivation. And perhaps there's some value in that. But I would rather deal with what's real, right? We're proofing our it's almost like we're safeguarding our sessions in that way. We're dealing with reality. We're embracing that fully. This is a powerful experience for people. I mean, imagine how differently they're going to feel when they look in the mirror, having had a conversation with you, and they just see themselves differently, and they know and they did it, right? They did it. You didn't do it. You didn't guide them on a journey of some sort, like trying to lead them somewhere. You just let this occur organically. It's an incredibly powerful way to work with folks. Principle number 3 here is focusing on discovery over suggestion. And it kind of goes back to the first point here. If I don't know the problem, the real problem, and I start making a series of suggestions about it may work. It might not work. And I think if we want to create breakthroughs quickly with people, it might help to just sort of get to that real problem to help them explore it. And then whatever they discover from that place is going to be an organic thing, right? Because they're doing the work. They're creating the resources. We're not trying to engage them and make them be more creative. All we're doing is becoming very adept at creating a space for their mind to do that by itself. This is gold, right? This is absolutely gold for folks. It's life-changing. So with this set of parameters, we're not really limited anymore. We can just be having a normal conversation, and we can use our natural aptitude to be very, very curious about what that person in front of us is saying. We can actually listen to them too, because we're not distracted by our expectations and all the things we just talked about, right? Tools, things like that. The person in front of us can become all of those things. And as these things happen organically, it just enhances the process. You're naturally going to build rapport in that setting because you've kind of hacked it in a way. If you think about it, I mean, this stuff just happens organically. Now, I think what's different here is we no longer have to worry about sort of the ethical limitations folks will bring up around covert hypnosis, because we're not doing that anymore. We're not leading that person. We're just giving them an opportunity to go inward and create the trance resources, etc., the things that they need to solve the problem very quickly. We're not guessing anymore. We're taking effectively the change work out of guesswork. And I have this with some of my organic hypnosis members. They're actually not interested in being practitioners. They just saw my content, found it quite fascinating, and signed up for my course. And they report back about how this has influenced their relationships. I'm starting to notice things with folks. I'm starting to really understand them. This is powerful. This is like life-changing stuff for people. So I hope these principles help start to apply them. Let me know in the comments if you get hung up anywhere, if you have any questions. I'd love to follow up. Take care, everybody.